Boss, we've been talking about the current product. We talked about Cena. We talked about Uso. We talked about Cody. One of the guys that's going to be in the Elimination Chamber that has as good of a chance as anybody else of winning is CM Punk. Mm-hmm. And obviously, we know the stories, blah, blah, blah. The WrestleMania story. He left, blah, blah, took his bat, his ball, he went home. What I want to ask you about is what you have seen from Punk recently, not necessarily in the ring, because I think we can agree he's been doing a hell of a job in the ring.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Yeah, he's always that's never been an issue.
The issue has been
Backstage.
Behind the scenes.
Yeah.
But we all need to mature in the business. I'm sure at one point you needed to mature. I know I needed to mature. I learned more from you outside of the ring than I did inside the ring. I'm putting you over. That's not a knock. And that helped me to mature in the business. I believe Punk has matured. Do you see the maturity in him? And what have you seen, if so, that would lead you to believe that?
No, absolutely. He's matured. He's actually very pleasant to be around.
That's a word we don't often hear thrown around when it comes to Punk.
Yeah, no. I mean, he was very before he left the first time. Very aloof. A lot of times.
Aloof. Okay.
Yeah, aloof. He was can be somewhat combative and again, one of those guys that wants to fight for every hill, mm-hmm. And not so in such a good way. But my experiences with him since he's come back, he's so personable and just engaging. It's like it's a different guy. It's like a weight, I guess, has been lifted off of him. And I don't know his personal struggle or any of that. That's not my, that's not my deal. But I do know how people act and react, and I see him cutting up all the time with people and engaged in conversations. I'm not around a lot, but to be that way each time that I am there tells me that that's probably a consistent thing for him now. And I think because of that, and the experiences that he has, if he wants to, I think he has an audience now with the talent that's there. If he chooses to let people sit under his learning tree, I hope so. Then that seems much more of an attainable goal for the guys that are coming up underneath him to be able to engage with him and learn from his experiences. He's a different cat.
I completely agree. Punk showed up one of the weeks down here at the Performance Center for LFG, mm-hmm. Which will be debuting this Sunday night on A&E at 8 o'clock. 90-minute episodes, folks. This is not an hour. This is 90 minutes. There's a lot of content here, so make sure you tune in. So Punk showed up one week and obviously was talking to the 16 future greats about the importance and the art of the promo. Mm-hmm. And when it comes to promo, not many people are as convincing at CM Punk. 30,000 feet, your broad stroke overview. How did you think Punk did with the future greats, and how did it feel for you to be able to be, on this show with him?
First of all, I thought it was a tremendous experience for these guys because, again, Punk is a contemporary now. There is a very distinct possibility that some of these 16 kids may have an opportunity maybe to get in the ring with him at one point. He was just enough CM Punk and the right amount of Phil Brooks. There was a spark there. You can tell, right? You've noticed with our guests, by the time that we get to the end where we are critiquing and giving our feedback, how engaged these special guests are. And you could tell with him, he really enjoyed the time here, and he wasn't just going through the motions. He was truly invested, which I feel like most of the guests have been invested in these future greats' careers. I saw him in a couple of sidebar conversations with some of these kids. he doesn't have to do that, right? That's not part of.
He seems genuinely interested in their futures.
Absolutely, and he has enough knowledge of where the product has been and where it's going to give them advice that if they're smart enough to listen and take it in, that it will probably be beneficial. So I thought it was great. I thought his episode was great, and his contributions to what he did were good.
Let's do another shot because we're almost at the bottom of this bottle. What are we going to do when we run out? We'll see. Here's to the Punk episode. Here's to LFG. Okay, trivia time.
When the whiskey goes, I go.
That's it. Out of here. Wow, that one went up my nose.
Did you say trivia?
Trivia. You ready?
Dude, I have a hard enough time remembering my name, much less trivia.
This is a good trivia question.
All right.
What do CM Punk, The Undertaker, and Bubba Ray Dudley all have in common?
Why?
I'll narrow it down.
Please do.
Who do we have in common?
Oy vey. Oh, Mr. Heyman.
Yes, we do. Now, on screen, CM Punk is the original Paul Heyman guy.
On screen.
On screen in the WWE.
Yeah.
Before him, in real life, I was a Paul Heyman guy.
Mm-hmm.
But before me, there was you. You're like the OG of the OG Paul Heyman guys.
Why am I the OG of all OGs? That just
because you're old, and because
all right, man. Yeah, here we go.
But before you were his first, weren't? Who did he manage before you, or who did you?
I don't think there was. I think
he was with you at the very beginning, right?
Yes, he came in. He came into WCW in 1989, and they put him with me, I think, as a last-ditch effort to try and get me over.
And this is during the Mark Callis?
Mean Mark Callis.
Mean Mark Callis days, okay.
Yeah. So I'd come in as a skyscraper with Spivey. Teddy Long was our manager, and then Danny left, and then it was just me and Teddy, and then I don't remember what happened with Teddy, but then Paul came in, and they put me with Paul. And I know the word advocate is thrown around a lot, but he was. I mean, he battled for me. He helped me because he knew, like, I was struggling financially. He would help me. And most of all, he knew, he knew Bruce, and he knew that my future with WCW was, he knew what the ceiling was, and he was very instrumental in getting me a meeting with the big man. Always looking at the bigger picture, right? Even when I didn't necessarily see it, he knew that I needed to go to New York, and he advocated for that, and probably Bruce was a fan. Vince was the last.
You're talking about Bruce Pritchard?
Bruce Pritchard.
Yep.
Yeah. I think Vince was the last convert there. He was the last to get on board with it. But
so at first meeting, at first speaking, Vince does not see what Paul sees in you?
No. So I have a match. I think it was Great American Bash, and I worked with Lex, and I had just injured my hip, and Bruce had called me. Now, me and Bruce have we've had conversations by this point.
By the way, I just want to go off on a sidebar. You said Great American Bash, and I just had flashbacks to the Concrete Crypt match.
Yeah, get that out of your mind.
Okay.
Get that out of your mind.
I'm going to get it out of my mind.
Get it out of your mind.
Back to your bash.
Wow. Talk about throw me off right there. Oh, holy hell.
Okay, so Great American Bash.
Great American Bash. I'm going to work with Luger. This is, still the same time where I'm walking down the rope and dropping the big elbow off the middle of the rope. And so I done that. My hip is already starting to bother me. And I call Bruce, because I know he had already told me, hey, Vince, we're going to Vince's house. We're going to watch this pay-per-view with Vince. So tear it up, right? With Lex. And now my hip is jacked up. So I call Bruce, and I'm like, Bruce, man, I've hurt my hip. He says, I don't care what it is, go out there and go. Do whatever you can do. So I go out there and do what I can do. Wasn't by any means, my best, but I did what I could do. Yeah, I think Vince's, his, like, he's just a big redheaded basketball player. I don't see anything. Okay. Eventually, Bruce and Paul, they all kind of stay in this conversation, and finally Bruce pesters Vince into giving me a meeting, and at the house, right? I mean, I was like, shit, I got a meeting at the house. Okay, things are changing here, So we go, and I bet maybe 3 hours. I'm sitting there with Bruce and Vince and Pat Patterson, J.J. Dillon, little Shane running in and out like little turd. Get out of here, kid. And we have this meeting, and I'm feeling good, right? Like I feel like, oh man, I'm being really personable. I'm making eye contact. Everything I tell my kids to do now,
right?
Like make eye contact, shake hands firm. I'm doing everything right. And everybody's laughing. Everybody's good. The mood is good. Get to the end of the meeting. Well, we don't have anything right now. And granted, too, a little sidebar to this. I've already given WCW. When I got the meeting, I give WCW my notice.
Oh,
because I believe I'm going in.
Did he know you gave your notice?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, he doesn't know that. But so I had given as soon as I got the meeting, I give him my notice because I know I'm going to go in and blow him away, right? So we get to the end of the meeting. Well, we really don't have anything right now. Maybe after WrestleMania. And automatically I'm doing the math in my head, like 1, 2, 3.
How long can I survive on what I have put away?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there was no really anything was put away. I'm living paycheck to paycheck in WCW. So I'm like, okay, well, he didn't shut the door completely. He just said maybe after WrestleMania, and which makes sense, right? Because after Mania, they start the whole new season. People get let go. Okay. So after that meeting, I'm going to I do a couple of shots for Lawler down in Memphis, and I go to Japan. I'm just doing whatever wherever I can get booked at the time. And then I get a call, and I think it was Bruce. And he goes, "Hey, they want you to go out and read for this movie." And I'm like, movie? Like, yeah, just something to keep you busy, which would end up being Suburban Commando.
Yep.
The worst movie ever made. My claim to fame. There it is. The absolute worst movie ever made.
And there you have it.
But if you're a Suburban Commando fan, I did steal the show with the "You're a Dead Man" Ramsey line that was delivered. So, I mean, that should have
perfect. You should have won an Academy Award.
I'm just saying.
I'm
brother. Just saying. So I go out there. I think I'm on set maybe 5 weeks, I guess 6 weeks, and then I go back home. Reality, I'm living in the Marriott, and everything's pretty cool. I got catering all day on set. I'm living high on the hog. I'm thinking this is great. I think I'm gonna be a movie star, right? Well, that ends in about 6 weeks, and then I'm back home again. And I'm like, oh, shit.
What do I do now?
Yeah, and I wasn't making like I'm burning. I'm 22, 23 years old in L.A. I'm burning my per diem up like
instantly. Instantly.
It's gone. But I got some great stories.
None that we can tell.
Yeah,
actually,
none that I can
tell them on Sirius, but
statute of limitations doesn't run out on certain things. But so yeah, that's when. So we're getting into November by this time, and obviously then I think everybody kind of picks up the story there with the egg and me being all uptight about becoming Eggman and but that's where the phone call came.
Right.
And then it was like, can you be up here tomorrow? And I'm like, yeah. Like this is how naive and green I am, right? He asked me, can you be up here, Stamford, Connecticut? At that time I'm in Nashville, Tennessee. And he asked me, excuse me, he says, can you be up here tomorrow? I'm like, yes, sir, absolutely. I'll be there tomorrow. We hang up. All right, perfect. I'll see you tomorrow. We hang up, right?
How am I getting there?
Exactly. That's what happens. As soon as I hang the phone up, right? I hang the phone up, and then I pick it off again. Like I'm going to be able to magically get the call back. Like there's nothing but a dial tone there. And now I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to get there. I couldn't afford a ticket. My credit cards are maxed. I'm like, oh. And then I hung up, and now I'm in a panic. And the phone rings again, and it's somebody from travel, and
right,
yeah. So I was like, oh my gosh.
So the meeting, knowing Paul goes to bat for you. You get the meeting with Vince. Hello, is this the Undertaker? The rest is history for you. Paul, we can get into so many aspects of Paul and what he meant to you, me, the business, yada, yada. I would assume that Vince McMahon is the smartest person you've ever met or learned from in the business? Close to Pat Patterson?
Man, Pat was on a level, man. He was, well, it depends. Like
1A, 1B?
For finishes and angles of matches and being able to continue a story, I don't know that anybody's any greater than Pat. But for a vision of the business as a whole, Vince was on a level all by himself, and especially in 1990.
Okay, so we have Vince and we have Pat, and I totally understand where you're coming from on both of them. Where do you put Paul in that conversation?
So Paul, and so initially, obviously, Paul's still in WCW and stays there for a while. But Paul, and I didn't really appreciate Paul. I mean, I appreciate what he did for me, obviously, but I didn't appreciate Paul's brain until much later in my WWE run, when I actually watched him work with the talent that he represented.
Was that Punk or Brock?
Who was first?
Punk was first.
Punk was first. Yeah. So you watch him, and obviously everybody knows. Okay, our business is a work, but Paul is a shoot. Like he is a shoot manager advocate.
Yes.
For his talent, and to the point where if I'm getting ready to work a match with Punk, I can expect a phone call. I can expect a phone call from Paul because he figures that he is, maybe I don't have the greatest relationship with Punk, but Paul, like,
going to bridge the gap.
He's going to bridge the gap, and he has a vision, and he's already gave that vision to whoever it is, whether it be Punk or Brock. Now he's going to try and sell it to me, which like I completely saw through, but I so appreciated the fact that he was making the effort to try and sell me on the vision.
I have to tell you a story right now.
Okay.
And I've never told you this story. I learned from Paul. Mm-hmm. And you're talking to me about how Paul would call you, and he already had it all figured out.
Right.
But he was paying you the respect of calling you first, asking your opinion, and had it and all thought out and all that good stuff. One day I walked into the locker room, and you were lacing up your boots. And I said, "Boss, what do you want to do tonight?" And you looked up at me, and you go, "Who the fuck are you kidding? you know you have this all figured out already. Why don't you just give it to me?
that had to have been the handicap
match. That's where I learned it from.
That had to have been the handicap match.
No,
was it that one?
It wasn't the handicap match. But nobody. Let's never bring the handicap match up again. But actually, where else did we work a handicap match? Another trivia question for you. We main evented handicap match in the Budokan.
That's right.
Where Cheap Trick and Ozzy recorded live albums in the Budokan.
In the Budokan.
Yep.
Yeah, that's right.
But I just never. You telling that story about, and I went about things the same way with you. I walked in there. I had the whole match figured out in my head. But I'm like, hey, boss, what do you want to do? And you're like, yeah, okay, whatever, kid.
Give it to me.
Yeah.
Just spit it out. Just let me hear it, and I can shit on it, and we can go from there.
And we can shit on it and go from there. Let's finish this bottle of Jack.
Cheers, brother.
Here's to Heyman and what he's meant to both of our careers.
And the industry.
And the industry, absolutely.
And Paul, I know you're watching. I love you, brother. But I know you.
We both know you. Were you a fan of ECW?
Here's the thing, and a lot of people call bullshit on this, but I didn't keep up.
That's
with
fine.
not with ECW. I didn't keep up with WCW. All I knew was on a week-to-week basis for 83 weeks, they were kicking our ass, and I didn't like it. But I didn't. I mean, so we're running against each other, and we're doing TV the same time they're doing TV, and I wasn't going home and putting on.
Sure.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I mean, I'm always trying to figure out how I can make myself better. If I can make myself better, then I can make the product better. But I'm not. I was just never that guy. Once I got to WWE, like I didn't. And people look at me cross-eyed sometimes because they will throw out a finish like, what about the Shimoko Nakadowo driver? And I'm like,
that's a cross between a Michinoku driver and a, I don't know what the fuck.
I'm just trying to be as absurd as I can possibly be, because when it's put to me, I'm like, I have no idea what that even is.
Right.
And then because I guess of my hierarchy or wherever I'm at in the bit, they're looking at me stank eye like, well, just say you don't want to do it. Like, I don't know what it is. I don't study. I study the product, our product. I look at our product and figure out what I like and what I don't like and how we can make it better. At that point, I'm not studying because I'm so engrossed into this character and making this character what it is. Like I quit game filming everything out there.
Right.
But people always are just taken aback the fact that I don't know,
Sure.
Like
you're so caught up in the world that you were in and working and everything. And
yeah.
The battle was, you didn't have time to watch anything.
Yeah. All I was concentrated in was being number one.
But you weren't for 83 weeks.
Yes.
So question. Tell me about the worst day you can remember in the locker room during those 83 weeks. When did you guys hit rock bottom? When was it the most tense? When were the boys? Because listen, the boys, when all the boys are making money, everybody's happy. Everything is happy, joy, joy. When the boys are not making money, things bad. It gets.
Yeah.
And I didn't get to experience the real bad locker rooms. You did.
Yes.
Tell me about the worst day you can remember in that locker room during those 83 weeks.
I remember going to a TV, and like I'm super frustrated with our product because at the time we're still catering to that 12 to whatever that demographic is, right? That 8 to 12-year-old demographic. While WCW is that 18 to 34-year-old demographic. And they are just kicking the living shit out of us. And I remember going to a TV and the first dark match is going into the ring, and I remember walking out by the side curtain, and I walked out, and I couldn't see a soul.
You didn't see anybody in the
No,
arena?
because what we did was we would take everybody and put them all opposite hard camera.
Ah, okay.
So I walk out, and I am in plain view, in full-on Undertaker regalia, and nobody even notices me.
Wow.
And I'm sitting there because when I came in, business was good. Not attitude era good, but business was good.
Sure.
And then I had the run. So when I had my run with Warrior, like there was 3 towns running a night. Three different towns. That's how business was. Hogan and Slaughter were in one town. Me and Warrior were somewhere else, and then Boss Man and maybe I don't know who he was, but 3 towns running. And I go out, and no one even notices that I'm standing in plain view. And I am just like, oh, what the hell, man? What on earth? And I knew, I'm having to make serious. This is a lot of people I don't really even know this, but so I'm. So I've got Kevin Nash calling me and said, "Hey man, I can get you this kind of money." And I'm like, "Wow!" Right? And I'm in my head, like on the phone, I'm like half-ass entertaining it, but in my head, like I know that I can't.
The temptation is screwing with you just a little bit.
The temptation is screwing with me, but I know, like deep inside, like it's crazy, like it's hard to describe. Like deep down inside of me, I know that I can't. Because I knew that man gave me an opportunity.
Yep.
And that other company, although the leadership and everything had changed by now, to me it was still the same. It was still that company that told me that I would never draw a dime, that I would never be this, I would never be. They told me what my ceiling was. So I'm having this conflict of hearing these incredible numbers and these limited dates. We're still, business is shits, and we're out 250 dates a year. That's the only way. I'll tell you how bad business was, and I say this and I hope it doesn't come off like I'm an asshole or arrogant or anything like that. But in those years, I've made more money in one night than I did in a whole year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yep.
that's how bad business was.
Bradshaw would tell me the stories about how the boys would owe the office money because of the draw.
Oh,
it's too deep to get into right now. I don't want to burn time on it. But the boys would owe the office money.
But that's important, though. Think about that. Think about that in the perception of in our world, the way people perceive us. That when our checks come, that there's a minus.
Right.
That's hard. That's hard for people to understand.
And everybody listening, I promise to tell this story next time I'm on so you can fully understand what me and the dead man are talking about. You go out there, you go in the middle of the arena, nobody recognizes. Is that when the light bulb goes off for you that things are really, really bad?
Well, I know that things are really, really bad. And it just so happens, I think Nash calls me right after that. So I am just like, holy crap. Honestly, and now this is what a lot of people don't know. Like UFC is coming up big at this point, right? They're growing. If I had an amateur wrestling background, there's a good chance I would have tested those waters.
No shit.
I felt like I could I would have been able to get my stand up on point. Close enough. I have no idea. I might have got my ass smashed, but at this time, you have to understand the immense pressure that I'm under because I've got a family, right. And if I had had an amateur background and something to base my whole thing off, I probably would have tested those waters because I knew I wasn't going back to WCW. As lucrative as the deal was, it might have been, there was no chance. There was no way in hell I was going there.
You showed something that not a lot of people in this business have, and that's loyalty.
Yeah.
That loyalty has to make you proud of the man you are, the professional you are, and that you stayed loyal to this company who now is flourishing more than it ever has.
Well,
You got to be able to look at yourself in the mirror and say, kid, you did the right thing.
no, absolutely. I did the right thing. It's just there's at that point though, when you're at that kind of desperation, it's really the mental aspect of everything. Now I can look back and go like, yeah, I was smart, right? But at the time, man, it was like you're second guessing everything you do. Like, can you just not put your bullshit pride on a shelf because they told you weren't going to draw any money? You're being told right here, you can work this many dates and you can get paid this amount of money. And I'm looking in a half-ass empty arena.
Not even half empty. Probably 3/4
Oh no, it
empty.
was. Oh yeah, I'm being generous.
Yeah.
I'm being generous. And no, we've got all these outrageous characters that are not resonating with anybody. Like there's no light at that point at the end of the tunnel. It's just like, what the hell? Well, I know I left Japan. I left Japan on good terms. I can go there if I need to.
Your mind just starts running a mile a minute.
Just all these thoughts are like, what are you gonna do? And you're thinking, my God, this man, like, shit, he gave me this opportunity. Like, eventually, what the thought was is, I'm crawling in that foxhole with him.